Hmm.
So we just read The Juniper Tree by the Brothers Grimm. Do you want to give a summary of it and then we can talk about it?
Hmm. Yes. There's a there's a couple and they've had a hard time having a child even though they've been married for a while. And
And he's a
um
very rich man, and this supposedly
yeah.
happened 2,000 years ago.
Mhm. Yeah, so one day the wife she goes out to the, the juniper tree in their near their home, and
In their courtyard.
yeah, and she is peeling an apple, and sometime while she's doing that she accidentally cuts herself, and uh like she sees blood fall on the snow outside because it's snowing. um and in that moment she's unhappy about it, but then the thought comes to her that she wishes to have a child as red as blood and as white as snow. And so after that, the months pass and the seasons change, and each month. And on the eighth month, um, I don't remember what happens with the season, but she realizes she's pregnant, and she gives birth to a son. And she's so overjoyed that she actually passes away from that emotion, unfortunately.
But before he was born, she ate some of the juniper berries and then she felt
Mhm.
sick.
Yeah, so she felt sick, and I think that's how she noticed she was pregnant somehow.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, she
And
gives birth.
when she had gotten sick, she had told her husband, "If I die, bury me beneath the juniper tree."
Hmm. Yeah, so she passes away, and he buries her beneath the tree, and of course he's very uh upset about it. But over time, the little boy, the baby grows, and he remarries. Um, and he has a daughter with that woman. Her name's Marlene Chin. And the the new wife, she doesn't like the boy because she feels that he will be in the way of her daughter being able to get the most inheritance that she could. So she mistreats the boy, and there's passages about her like hitting the boy and abusing him. Um, so that like once he's out of school, like his peace will end, because outside of that, his home life just isn't very good with her around. So one day the new wife, she's at home, and uh Marlene Chin comes back, and the new wife uh pulls an apple out of a chest, and
Well, she had asked for
uh
an apple, Marlin had.
yeah, Munchen, she asked. So she pulls the apple out, but then the evil one starts filling her with thoughts, and it possesses her, and she tells Marlinchin that she can't have the apple, that it will be for her brother. And right when she says that, the little boy, he comes back home uh, from school. And with the evil one still possessing her, I think she like stares at the boy and asks him if he would like an apple. And the boy comments that she looks unwell. Um, but yeah, she still offers him the apple um under the evil one's control, and he um ac- he accepts, and she asks him to go grab one from the chest. And as he stooped down to grab the apple, she shuts the lid down, and it decapitates the boy, and his head falls into the chest with the apples. So the mom panics, and she uh, thinks of how like she must find some way to hide this. So she grabs a handkerchief and ties the head back to the
She had
boy's
gone up to
body.
her, yeah, she had gone up to
Uh,
her bedroom in her drawer to get the handkerchief.
mm. Yeah, she ties both body parts back together and she seats the boy outside holding the apple. And Marlin comments later uh, that her brother is sitting outside and he looks odd, and then the mom tells her that uh, she needs to talk to him to get the apple back that he's holding, and if she instructs her that if he doesn't listen to her, to just box him in the ear. So Marlin goes to speak to her brother and she asks him for the apple, but he, of course, makes no response. So then she hits him in the ear and his head falls off. And she panics, of course, and runs back to her mom crying, saying that his head fell off and that she doesn't know what happened. And the mom tells her uh, that to not worry, I think that they'll fix this somehow. So she takes the body and makes black pudding out of it, all while Marlenchen is crying and uh, weeping to the point the story says that the black pudding doesn't even need any more salt because she cried all over the pan. The father comes back home and he asks his wife where his son is. And she tries to kind of ignore the question and she serves him the black pudding, but he keeps asking and won't eat until he knows. So she makes up a story that the little boy had gone to live with uh, his, I think, maternal uncle far away and that he'd be gone for 6 weeks. And the father, he's uh, unhappy about hearing that, and he feels that his son should have told him goodbye or told him that he would be leaving. But he accepts the explanation and starts eating the black pudding made out of his son. And yeah, he makes comments kind of indicating to the reader that it is like his son. I forgot what it was, but it was just very
Well,
chilling.
he just kept saying, "Give me some more, you shall have none of it." It seems to me as if it were all mine.
Yeah, that's that part. It seems as if it were
Hmm.
all mine.
Hmm.
Um, because it pretty much is. Um,
Yeah, and he was throwing the bones under the table as he was
yeah,
devouring it.
yeah. So he really likes the black pudding and he eats all of it. All the while Marlon Chin is uh continuing to cry. Um, and when dinner is over, she gathers the little bones and grabs a silk handkerchief and she goes outside and takes the little bones of her brother and puts them near the juniper tree. And when she does that, I think that like the juniper tree or the plants around the tree, like they open up and let her through.
Yeah,
And
it
like
says the branches parted like arms.
mhm. And I think like a big fire started
There was
and
a mist first, but
or
then yeah,
mist,
a great
a
fire, yeah,
mist.
in the mist, in the midst of the mist.
Yeah, and like a beautiful bird comes out of the fire. Um, and I think then it flies over to the a goldsmith. Um, and it starts singing a song, saying, "My mother killed me, my father ate me, and little Marlinchen took my bones in a silken handkerchief and put them under the juniper tree." And as the goldsmith hears it, he thinks it's such a beautiful singing. So he goes to the bird and asks it if it could sing again. And the little bird says that he needs something in return to sing it a second time. And he asked if he could have the gold chain. So the
There's a little
goldsmith.
detail though, like when the goldsmith runs out of his shop, like he loses his shoe, and something similar happens with the next one. But yeah, he
Mhm.
loses one of his slippers.
Mhm. Yeah, so the goldsmith gives him the chain, and the little bird sings the same song again, of detailing what happened when the little boy got killed. So then the little bird carries the gold chain with his, I think, right foot, and then he flies to, I forgot, he flies to a shoemaker. And when he's at the shoemaker's workplace, he sings the same song. My mother killed me, my father ate me, and the little sister took his bones in a silken handkerchief and put it underneath a juniper tree.
But then he's the last line is "Quit, quit, what a beautiful bird am I."
Yeah, yeah. So he sings the little tune, and the shoemaker also. And I think the shoemaker's family, I'm not sure, but they think it's such a beautiful singing. So
But
they asked
the
the
shoemaker goes out without putting on his coat, and then yeah, he gets his family to join.
yeah, so they asked the little bird to sing it again, and the little bird says that he needs something in return to sing it a second time. So the shoemaker instructs his wife to go get some little red shoes to give the little bird. So they give the little red shoes to the bird, and the bird sings its song, and then it flies to millers, to a group of millers at work. And I think the it sings its little song again, and in each like break, like more and more millers start listening to the little bird, and the last miller to um start paying attention asked him if he could sing it again, and the little bird says he needs something in return, and asks if he could have the miller stone. So the millers, they all come to the agreement that they'll give him the stone if he sings the song again. So, yeah, they give it to him, and he sings the song, and he puts the miller stone around his neck like a necklace, and he flies away back to his house. So yeah, he flies, the little boy bird like flies back to his house, and family is having dinner, and his stepmother is complaining that she feels unwell, and like her eyes are burning, and she just has this sense of doom or something. But
But
meanwhile,
the father and the sister feel great.
mm, yeah, but meanwhile, the father and Merlin they feel very well, and the father says he feels that as if he's going to see an old friend again. Uh, so the little bird goes outside, I think, and goes to the juniper tree, and he starts singing his song, My Mother Killed Me, and uh, the stepmother hears it, and she starts covering her ears and falls to the floor, and the father goes outside to investigate, to go see the little bird, despite the stepmom telling him not to. So he goes outside, and then he sings, My little sister Marlin took my bones in a silken handkerchief and buried them at the juniper tree. And I think Marlin Chin, like, she starts crying more than she already is. She's been crying this whole time. Um, and yeah, so I think once the father goes outside, the little bird drops the gold chain to him.
Hmm.
And uh, at some point, the little sister, she goes outside, and the little bird gives her the red shoes. Um, and then I think they're encouraging the stepmom to come outside. I'm not so sure. but the stepmom is still feeling unwell, but she figures that she should go outside too and see like what the little bird might give her. So the little bird is singing that song again, and then it like cuts into like a crash sound because he dropped the miller's headstone on the his stepmom as soon as she got outside. So
Yeah,
the
it was
stepmom,
interesting when she said, "Well," said the woman, and sprang to her feet, and her hair stood up like flames of fire. I feel as if the world were coming to an end. I too will go out and see if my heart feels lighter. And as she went out, crash, the bird threw down the millstone on her head, and she was entirely crushed by it.
hmm. So yeah, the mom's dead, and then the little bird becomes a boy again, the boy again, and they all go back inside and finish dinner.
Yeah. Yeah, don't want to miss the evening meal.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed about that story that they mentioned a lot of the internal states of the characters. We mentioned some of them, like how the mother feels so terrible and like like there's fire in her veins and she feels she drops to the floor as if she's dead. And then just before the son gets his revenge, she feels like her heart is suddenly lighter. Uh, and at the very beginning of the story, the first wife, the mother of the boy, the snow white and red lipped boy, uh, had she'd eaten the berries of the juniper tree and felt really terrible, felt sick. There's just a lot of internal feelings of these characters. Like I
Mm.
don't feel like I see that very much in the Grimm's brothers stories and old
Yeah.
old tales and everything. There's more than what I've just mentioned too.
Yeah, it feels kind of more like modern storytelling in that kind of way.
Mm. I tried to imagine the millstone as the bird was wearing it like a collar. It seemed, I wonder if it sort of shrank or anything, but maybe
Yeah,
in these stories you can say they're magical stories, so it's not exactly like realistic. You kind of,
yeah,
there's a different logic to them.
yeah. I thought that must be a strong bird.
Hmm. Well, what did
Yeah.
you think of this story?
Um, yeah, I'm just wondering what the symbolism was right now with all the little gifts or the bird got for everyone. Um, but yeah, there's
Yeah.
stuff like with the shoes you said, like little red shoes and then people missing their shoes and
Yeah, I
um
don't know. I don't know if that's a coincidence or not, but either way, it seems definitely they mentioned that both the goldsmith and the shoemaker, when they go outside, they are missing an article of clothing. That's got to be important in some way.
Mhm.
And yeah, the goldsmith is missing his slipper, and then and then the bird goes to the a shoemaker, and then the shoemaker is missing his coat,
Mhm.
and then they go to the millers. I forgot what they call them, but yeah, they have a millstone, and maybe that has something to do with what they're wearing.
Yeah, I don't know, like I wonder if it has to do with just the little boy having to like seeming to have disappeared, at least from
The
the
little boy what?
family, seeming to have disappeared from like the
And that
family's
has something to do with
perspective.
them missing an article of clothing.
Or I don't know. Um, yeah.
I wonder if maybe, yeah, they're missing an article of clothing and he's missing something too. But anyway, he tells them, I'm not going to sing for free. Like, I need something. So they give him
Mm-hmm.
something more.
Yeah. Any part of him just kind of becoming a person again, I guess, like taking clo articles of clothing as part of the process of becoming whole again.
Yeah, there is this
Yeah.
whole communal thing. Like, his mother killed him, but then he goes to the town and the townspeople, and the it's not just the three sets of workmen, but it's also the families of the first two, the families of
Hmm.
the goldsmith and the shoemaker, and then the last
Hmm.
workers are a group of workers, and they all agree together
Hmm.
to give him the millstone. The
Yeah.
millstone is maybe a sign of communal kind of stuff too, because I think in the old town, people would, to get, you would bring the grain from your farm and to a communal millstone, and then they would make it into flour. It has something to do with like everybody working together, everybody surviving together.
Hmm.
Uh, and yeah, he had asked the last man to stop working was the one that the bird addressed, or that started talking to the bird, and when the bird had said, "I won't sing again for free," the last man had said, "I can't give you the millstone by myself. It's not only mine." And then and then the rest of them, assented to giving the bird the millstone. But that makes me think, yeah, there's something about how everybody else in their individual groups and as a whole contribute to this boy getting his life back. There's something about like not being whole and then being made whole again,
Hmm.
which is kind of the point of revenge or atonement, is being made whole again. And yeah, and the millstone, the thing that communally gives everybody life, is the thing that does the that makes his family whole again by killing the mother, and as the story says, crushing her completely, as she had dispatched of him completely. And the father had then done the same thing completely, eaten the whole thing completely, except for the bones. But yeah, eaten all of his flesh completely. Also, little detail, when the Marlinchin, and it's funny, she's given a name. No one else is given a name. But when Marlinchin goes down to the juniper tree and there's a mist, the fact that a fire comes and then a beautiful bird soars out of the mist. I mean, that sounds very much like a phoenix. A bird coming out of a fire, a beautiful bird coming out of a fire.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I imagined like it was his mom doing something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, there's definitely some almost heavy, yeah, anthropomorphization or whatever of the tree, like the branches opening up and closing like in an embrace, And then also it mentions the girl who had been, of course, just mortified and sorrowful, uh, now felt light and happy after she saw the bird. So she knew, instinctively that it was the boy's spirit. So it's like, yeah, he has a spirit, but he needs to uh become incarnate again. It's interesting that all his flesh is eaten by his father. Is there something almost like Jesus like there, or something like that, a
Yeah, it's true.
sacrifice to the father?
Yeah.
And then yeah, the pure virgin takes the bones in a silk handkerchief and a kind of rich shroud, brings them, and weeping, walking down the steps, walking out the door like a funeral procession. to the juniper tree. Of course, we didn't look up the symbolism of juniper tree or her name, Marlinchen, but that would be interesting to look up too.
Mm.
But yeah, being made whole by the whole community, going around the town, beautiful singing, the idea of it's such a sad story at first, but then it's quickly made into beauty. But it's funny that the beauty doesn't come exactly at the end. The beauty comes just soon after he's eaten, and he becomes a bird. But maybe that's also the more mythical kind of character. We compared this a little bit to a modern story, but in that way it's not like a modern story. It's
Mm.
yeah, there's less realism, I think, to that part. How the beauty comes first, and the beauty gets everybody to donate. They're overjoyed or something like that, and so they donate, and he's able to get things from other people with the beauty of his song and his the sort of like indomitableness of his spirit, which of course is like a marked contrast to how he had lived up to that point, living in terror of his mom and then her like decapitating him. Yeah. What do you think is I think there's obviously the parallel of Snow White with him being as red as blood and white as snow. Anything you think about that? I mean, also like Snow White, it has to do with like the hope of the barren mother in the otherwise loving marriage, incomplete, in incomplete marriage.
Mm. Well, I thought of the other story you read. Was it like Briar Rose or Sleeping Beauty? Forgot what the title was, but like she pokes herself with the spindle and then just like the drop of blood
Is that
that's kind
Rapunzel?
of no. Um, that one we did the podcast on where she pokes herself with the spindle and then that puts her into a deep sleep.
Oh,
But just
right.
the
Yes.
top of
Yeah.
just kind of appearing a lot in stories.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah. I think that's a Sleeping Beauty, Briar Rose.
yeah. But yeah, it seems like when the blood drops, like it's something important is like happening in the stories.
Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah.
Anything you think about that?
Mm,
I mean, it's got to be like snow, I think, is associated. First snow is purity, virgin kind of thing, but also death
um,
and the blood, mixing of
there's a,
purity. There's some kind of like menstruation, like a girl's first menstruation or something.
but yeah, it's just kind of thinking about the first wife's death, but then also her kind of creating life again soon in a few months.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, the cycles of nature. And this story explicitly mentions the cycles of nature. Like we didn't go through it that much, but it talks about how like after 1 month this happens, and then after 2 months, after 4 months, the spring returns, and after the fifth month, it's like everything is in full bloom. It goes through that. Yeah, yeah, it's pretty macabre kind of image with the mother having like the stepmother, having sort of covered up the severed part of the neck with a handkerchief after having replaced the head atop the boy's body, and before she, makes the daughter think that she herself killed the boy. How did you like this story?
Yeah, I liked it. It was different. So, yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of moved when he yeah, he got his revenge and well, not when he got his revenge, but when he came back to life. It was because it's a quite disturbing story for like a little boy to be killed. But yeah, the story doesn't make you sit with grief too long. It pretty soon he becomes a bird and he's on his way to becoming reincarnated. But but you kind of noted how abrupt the killing of the stepmother is. Like everything else is like led up to with, you know, he sings a line of a song and then a character feels something and then says something and then, everything happens step by step. It's almost like this whole thing is like this opera or something, this short opera. And at the end, boom, it's like the woman goes outside and crash. The bird threw the millstone on her head and she was completely crushed by it. The family heard, the father and Marlinchin heard what had happened and went out, and smoke, flames, and fire were rising. It's this image of the sort of wicked witch of the West or whatever, or the her going down to her fate, her master or whatever had happened, and went out, and smoke, flames, and fire were rising. And when that was over, there stood the little brother, and he took his father and Marlinchen by the hand, and all three were right glad, and they went in the house for dinner and ate. There's a lot of eating in this story too, a lot of food. There's actually cannibalism, but yeah, the black pudding, the apples, the eating dinner at the end, and also the fact they are eating dinner. He interrupts their eating dinner with his singing outside at the end of the story. The family's eating dinner. There's something about, and yeah, she had the original mother had eaten the berries of the juniper tree. She was eating an apple. She was paring an apple when she pricked her finger when it's snowing outside, and she has that wish and that feeling. Again, there's another feeling here. That feeling that that she will, her wish will come true, something like that. Yeah. I don't know. You can't make anything out of the fact there's so much food and eating in this story. There's so much consuming. Is it may some consumption is related to life in some way. Even the thing that he kills her with, that's the millstone, that's an implement of food production.
Like I,
Maybe there's some kind of guilt or shame associated with eating sometimes, with how we know others might not have food or something, or might be afraid that others might be envious of our being able of our feeding ourselves or something. There's some
yeah, I'm not
anxiety
so
there.
sh I don't know. I thought like maybe, yeah, I'm not so sure about that, but it's not just like an apple's a fruit, and it's like a kind of a result of like a tree's fertility. So like maybe it was present at the beginning to kind of hint at that with the first wife that she was going to have a child soon. Um,
Or I think there's a theme here of the fecundity of nature and trying to, and sometimes naturally getting the fruits of nature, or the fruits, what is coming to you, or trying to usurp that. So the
Mm,
woman goes out to the juniper tree and she wants a child, and she justifiably has an apple with her, and she is cut. She has to make some kind of sacrifice, that little blood sacrifice.
mm,
And she's happy and she can get a child. And later she eats the berries of the juniper tree, and I don't know what that quite means, but maybe that's like the she has to sacrifice herself too, because it shows that she feels happy because she knows that she's going to be, even though she's sick unto death, she knows she's going to give birth.
mm,
And so there could be something about like making a
mm,
sacrifice for life there. And
mm,
then uh yeah, but then the man is rich, and so the boy will get his inheritance, his son. But then the new woman comes along and she wants to usurp that fortune for her own daughter.
mm.
So there's where the violation comes in. She has to get rid of the boy, which is a
Yeah,
legitimate, I mean, I don't mean legitimate, but I mean this really does happen, right? This it's a logical kind of thing to happen.
mm,
Like I'm not going to get that or get as much of that as I'd want, so let's do some machinations and
yeah,
kind of make things happen.
yeah. Oh, yeah. And she's kind of like keeping the apples kind of hidden away and kind of locked away and
Yes,
kind
it
of,
mentions how
yeah.
they are. It mentions how, yeah, how hidden they are and how locked away. And the girl had, her little girl had wanted, Marlinchen had wanted the apple, and the mom had given her an apple, but then snatched it away and felt angry. Again, it mentions emotions, and it's like she felt angry at the little girl, and
Mm,
later on puts the apple in the boy's corpse's hand. And
mm,
instead of giving her daughter an apple and then giving her son and giving her stepson an apple, which the little girl had requested, like, won't brother get an apple too? She uses the apple to make the little girl uh, uh, think that she killed her brother.
mm,
And then, yeah, when the stepmother makes food, it's not a nourishment type food. It's this like horrible meal, this horrible, reverse of a nourishing dinner meal. It's this pudding made of her stepson. So yeah, it's like, yeah, food has to do with either accepting the fruits of nature, the bounty of what naturally is coming to you, or or trying to use that to do wrong, to not get what's coming to you. She doesn't want to be a mother and give her children fruit. She wants to usurp the father's fortune for her own daughter only, and then to blame her to not get the punishment that's coming to her for killing her son, and blaming it, getting her daughter to think her daughter's the one that killed the boy. Yeah. And then we're mostly out of food, and we go from the realm of nature and food and the home to the outside world, to to symbols of how we provide for ourselves and you know uh advance in the world. Gold and decor, shoes, moving around in the world,
mm,
millstone, producing in the world, not just the simple fruits of the earth. So signs of civilization. But then at the end, we return back. Everything is set aright again. The the stepmother gets what's coming to her, and the family again can settle humbly down, enjoy and love, and family and eat their meal together, finish their meal together. It's interesting. It was like interrupted and then they go and finish the meal.
Mm.
I don't feel like I quite understand that. Do you have a sense of that?
Yeah, not really. Like I had, it was that same kind of abrupt feeling.
Yeah. It
Um,
might also just be the economy of storytelling here. There's, there's not like any wasted scenes. It's very
mm,
compact, something like that,
yeah,
which
yeah,
that's kind of like what good writing is. I don't know.
yeah. Or like I wondered if maybe the writer thought it'd be kind of funny to be abrupt and kind of like take the audience by surprise that way or something. But I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. I sort of thought of how like when they buried John Wilkes Booth, they didn't give him a grave marker.
Mm.
They just like uh without fanfare, or that's not quite the phrase I'm looking for, but yeah, without any sort of ritual or something. The other parts of the story, as I mentioned, like with the bird, are kind of ritualistic with him singing the same thing over and over again and requiring some kind of recompense for it. It's like, yeah, it's like a religious kind of thing. But then killing the woman, killing the stepmother is like just, it just happens. Like she is inexorably brought there by her torment, brought outside, and he just ends it. It's not, yeah, there's no ritual there. Well, any last thoughts there?
Mm. No, I'm just thinking about the shoes and blood and just thinking of how the color red seems to like precede his rebirth. So, of course, there was the red with the blood when the first mom got cut that preceded his birth, and then giving his sister the little shoes before he kind of came back as a little boy.
Yeah.
And she, in a way, was kind of part of his rebirth process for bringing his little bones back to the
Yeah,
juniper
that's
tree.
right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I
yeah,
described that as like almost like a kind of funeral procession of
yeah,
her gathering them together, enshrouding them, walking
yeah,
down and outside to the tree.
yeah.
And of
So, yeah,
course, the
that's what,
apples are presumably red.
hmm. So, yeah, those are just some th ideas I had about the what the color red might have meant in the story with the blood and shoes.
Yeah. And red, of course, is the color of blood. It has some, the idea of like human life, human passion, potential, energy. Yeah. Yeah, that was a good one. A very but yeah, that was a little disturbing. That was a good story.